getting it wrong and putting it right. Part 3. Assembling the engine, fitting the inlet and exhaust piping and setting the valve timing. Followed by a quick test run using compressed air. Mahogany planking the birch plywood baseboard, rubbing down and varnishing. Then once it was dry, I mounted the engine in place, and that is the job done. This is the final episode in this short series. I've also made this collector pipe, complete with valve, which fastens to the steam chest covers, and you can lift them off in one go. This allows me to look at the slide valves to see that they're in the correct place. Here you see the slide valve going from left to right, and it's uncovering the ports an equal amount at each end. I'm doing this by just rotating the flywheel, and here's the other cylinder, exactly the same. So I can assume that the slide valves are both in the correct position. This was not done by accident, of course. I did set the slide valves before recording the video. When I remachined one of the cylinders, I did it in such a way that both the exhaust ports will face in towards the centre of the engine. This allows me to use a common exhaust collector, and here's one I prepared earlier, and initially for the test run it will be pointing away from the engine. I'm making some fixed studs. I'm using some Loctite 603 on the existing studs, which fixes the 7BA nuts to the threaded stud. This way they just function like bolts. Here I'm refitting the steam chest covers to the steam chest using the usual 7BA nuts, and I did it without dropping any on the floor, because when I drop them on the floor in my workshop they're never seen again. So it's starting to look good now, nearly ready for the test run. And the first thing to do is to absolutely flood all the moving parts with oil, because the last thing that you want to happen on a test run is premature damage to the bearings owing to lack of oil. So I usually go totally over the top with the amount of oil, and I pile it on like you see here, trying to cope with my bulk sat on it. Right, the engine's running, and it's running quite well. I'll just leave it for a while and see what happens. Yes, I'm quite pleased with that. For the first run this is good. It's running quite slowly. There is a tight spot I can detect, but that will wear off in a while. When I fit this engine to the new baseboard, and that will be covered by the next video, it should look pretty good, and it certainly runs well. It's very powerful and very smooth. There's a little bit of run out on the flywheel, but I didn't machine it, so I'm not guilty of that. But it should be okay. There's a little bit of run out on full-size steam engines. All in all, it's a very good looking engine, and because of its 90-degree crank arrangement and twin cylinders, it should sound something like a steam locomotive when it's running under load. With a rebuild project of this type, what I would normally do now, and in fact I will be doing it, is leaving the engine on the workbench, and each day when I'm in the workshop I'll just run the engine from the compressor, and this will remove any high points, and the high points come off the bearings in the form of a black substance that mixes in with the oil. That's why it's important to use plenty of oil to wash this stuff away. As this is the first run, you will notice I'm not running it too fast. I will, however, be speeding up the engine over the course of the next few days, and also I'll be messing with the timing to get the thing just as I want it. As is normal with steam engines, you do need early admission. This cushions the piston at each end of the stroke. Late admission does the opposite. What will happen is all the play in the bearings will be taken up at each end of the stroke, and you're likely to get a mechanical clunking noise. Early admission is perfect. The full size use early admission, and this is the way of things. So just bear this in mind if you're ever messing with a steam engine yourself. This is the original base you can see here, nicely covered in doll's house wallpaper, and a very rough piece of wood. This is a new base that I've just had made by a friend of mine, made out of top quality birch plywood, and it's really good. All I have to do now is veneer the base, and it will look the business. Some people will just cut the base for a steam engine out of a solid piece of mahogany, but I prefer to plank it and make it look like floorboarding. It just makes the thing look a little bit more authentic, while still keeping the presentation quality. The first thing to do is to select the mahogany you're going to use and cut it to length. For the inset pieces where the flywheel goes, what I did was I cut them purposely rough so you could see that you must always have the rough edge to the top, because the rough cut edge will be sanded off when you sand the planking. Normally I would use cyanoacrylate adhesive to stick planking onto wood, but unfortunately I'm running low on it, so I'm going to use some woodworking adhesive, some PVA. It's a lot less smelly, but it doesn't grab quite as quickly. Here you see me using the last of my cyanoacrylate adhesive to stick these two mahogany boards down inside the recess required for the flywheel. It's always very important to use plenty of adhesive, don't skimp on this, and make sure the adhesive is well spread. I'm using a piece of scrap mahogany to spread the adhesive, because if you don't get the adhesive to grab on all of it, parts of it may warp over time, and we do not want this to happen. It's quite important to make sure that you have something to press it in place, and here I'm using some scrap pieces of mahogany as spacers which hold the mahogany tightly against the plywood, and the cyano will grab very quickly, so in no time at all we can carry on with the next bit, which is planking the top. Having selected a good colour match on the mahogany, these are 1/2 inch planks, I'm about to stick them down. Owing to the dimensions of this baseboard, I had to cut a thinner plank, as you can see here. It all depends on the physical dimensions of the piece that you're planking. This was a fiddly bit to do. At each side I needed to put a very thin piece of mahogany on. Sticking on long thin pieces of mahogany is much easier with cyano because it grabs so much more quickly, and I needed some help to hold the piece in position until the PVA had grabbed. Normally I would use masking tape for this job, but I couldn't find the masking tape when I was making the video, so I used some electrical tape. It's not as good as masking tape because it doesn't stick as well to the wood parts, but it did the job for this. So when everything's nice and dry and everything's solid, it's time to go to the belt sander to clean up the edges, before putting the mahogany round the outside edge. All I'm doing here is just removing the overhanging mahogany. I'm not using a new belt, so it's not cutting terribly well, but that's a good thing because if you use a new belt, it's a bit vicious. But you must keep the work moving. If you hold it in one place, it's likely to burn, and that can look unsightly. It's important to keep the work square to the face of the belt sander. If you don't do that and you start to cut at an angle, then there's going to be a gap when you put the side pieces around it. Take your time and get it right first time. Once the sides are sanded smooth, it's time to fix the pieces around the edge. These are thicker pieces of mahogany board. And once again I'm using PVA adhesive and electrical tape, as you can see here, but then I found my masking tape. Masking tape is far better for this job as it sticks to the wood. Rub all the surfaces down until it's very smooth. Then you can apply the first coat of varnish. I generally apply varnish using a cloth when I'm making these things. It just gives a better finish. I don't want a brushed varnish finish. I don't like the look of that. This is Ronseal Hard Glaze, polyurethane varnish. It gives a good finish and it's very durable. And it looks great, especially when the engine's mounted on it. Here the engine's just sat on the board to get the final position. This is a very solid baseboard, unlike the previous one, which was far too soft. When I screwed the engine down to the original baseboard, it was actually distorting the cast iron. This is a very solid platform for this engine, and it's mounted using 4BA studding with at least 3/4 of an inch of the studding down into the baseboard itself. These studs are fitted by using a couple of lock nuts locked together, and it's just a simple job to screw them into the wood. This base is a very solid, very level platform for this engine, and here you can see it running. It's still a little tight in places, but it's going to run very well once it runs in.
And that's it, the end of the series. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.